Before Allah blesses you, He will break you so deeply that even your own reflection will feel unfamiliar, not to punish you, but to bury the version of you that would have destroyed the very thing you were begging for. 1. Allah will collapse the version of you that only knew survival. Before Allah blesses you, He will break apart the version of you that only knew how to survive. And that version didn't come from nowhere. It was shaped by the things you never talk about. The rejection that made you quiet, the betrayal that made you guarded, the loneliness that made you become what others wanted, just so you wouldn't be left behind again. That version of you became so used to hiding how much you care, hiding how much you're hurting, hiding what you really want, because somewhere along the way you were told it was too much. So you learned to smile even when you were crumbling. You learned to act normal even when your chest was screaming. You learned how to keep going without being you. But Allah saw that. He watched every moment you swallowed your truth just to keep peace. He saw how you shrank yourself in rooms that didn't know your worth. He witnessed the quiet sacrifices no one thanked you for. And now, before He gives you what you asked for, He has to remove who you became while trying to survive. That's why everything feels strange right now. You don't connect with people the same way. You don't enjoy what you used to. You're not sad, but you're not fully yourself either, because your soul is standing in between who you used to pretend to be and who you were always meant to become. You're being emptied, not because Allah wants you to suffer, but because He needs to make space. Space for peace that isn't borrowed. Space for confidence that doesn't depend on compliments. Space for a blessing that won't own you because you'll be standing in truth when it arrives. And that's why this test hurts so deeply, because you're not just losing people, you're losing the version of you who needed them to feel worthy. You're not just letting go of dreams, you're letting go of the version of you who begged for them out of fear. This stage, this silent breakdown, it's not a failure, it's a purification, a soft reset from Allah. He's not asking you to be strong right now. He's asking you to be honest, to admit, Ya Allah, I don't know who I am anymore, and to trust that He is the one who will rebuild you, piece by piece, in secret, in silence, in beauty. He's not removing your identity. He's restoring your original one, the one that doesn't lie to please others, the one that walks with truth, not masks, the one that trusts even when it's tired, the one that doesn't chase what was never meant to stay. So if you feel confused, tired, numb, or distant, you're not broken, you're awakening. Your soul is walking away from survival and stepping into sincerity. This version of you that Allah is creating right now is the only one who will be able to carry the blessing He has written. And this time, you won't drop it, because you'll know who you are, not based on who stayed or who clapped for you, but based on who you became when no one was watching. 2. He will show you a beautiful door, then close it in front of you. There are moments in life when you get a glimpse of something that feels so right, so perfect, so clearly meant for you, that you start to believe, finally, this is it. It could be a person who enters your life like a prayer being answered. It could be an opportunity that fits your dream down to the smallest detail. It could be a sudden peace after years of struggle, something so beautiful, so obvious, so divine, that you stop questioning. You say, Subhanallah, this has to be from Him. You start planning around it, praying for it, maybe even telling people about it. And then, right when you feel closest, the door closes. Not slowly, but suddenly, without reason, without mercy, without explanation. You try to push it back open. You knock with dua. You beg Allah in tahajjud. You recheck your intention 100 times. You repent, you fast, you search for the lesson, but the door stays shut, and the silence becomes unbearable, and your heart whispers the question you're too scared to say out loud. Ya Allah, why would you show me something so perfect, only to take it away? But what if the test isn't the loss itself? What if the test is in how you respond to a door that looked perfect, but wasn't pure? You see, sometimes Allah shows you the door to show you yourself, to show you what your heart still clings to, what you still worship silently, what you still believe will complete you, even if you dress it in Islamic language. Because the blessing might be beautiful, but it might not be safe for your soul. You may think you're ready, but Allah sees the pride that's still hidden. He sees how the excitement of the blessing began to overshadow your remembrance of Him. He sees how your faith shifted, not to trust in Him alone, but to trust in outcomes, signs, people, feelings. And that's why the door closes. Not because you weren't worthy, but because you weren't ready to carry it with surrender. Because the truth is, some doors aren't just closed, they're protected. What looked like your moment was actually a mirror that showed you how much you still needed the blessing to feel chosen. A mirror that revealed how attached your heart still was to what was never guaranteed. And in that moment, when Allah closes it in front of you, He's asking you gently, will you still love me when you don't get what you want? That's the real test. The blessing may still come, or it may not, but the reward of that test is not what's behind the door. It's who you become while standing outside it, surrendered, calm, trusting, because that's the soul that's ready to receive. That's the heart that can be trusted. So if you're standing outside a closed door right now, and your chest is heavy, and your prayers feel unanswered, just know this: Allah didn't close it to hurt you. He closed it to return you to Him. He closed it because He saw what you couldn't. He closed it so you don't walk into something that would have broken you later. The pain you feel isn't rejection. It's redirection back to a path that your soul was always meant to walk. One day, you'll look back at that closed door and whisper, Ya Allah, thank you for saving me from what I begged you to give. And when the door that's written finally opens, you won't chase it. You won't doubt it. You won't fear losing it. Because you'll know you didn't force it open. Allah handed you the key. 3. Allah will place you in a season where nothing reflects you back. There comes a moment in your journey with Allah where you wake up and the entire world feels foreign. The people you used to laugh with, you can't connect with them anymore. The places that once felt like home now feel heavy on your chest. The conversations you used to enjoy start to sound shallow, repetitive, empty. You feel like you're present in a world that no longer mirrors who you're becoming. And for the first time, you begin to question, why does nothing feel like me anymore? You scroll through your phone, but nothing speaks to your heart. You sit in gatherings, but feel like a stranger. Even in prayer, you begin to feel like your soul is watching from a distance. It's a strange season, not filled with chaos, but with quiet detachment. It's not depression. It's not isolation. It's transformation in its most silent and sacred form. Because before Allah blesses you with alignment, He blesses you with disconnection from everything that no longer belongs to your next chapter. You're not being punished. You're being cleansed. He's pulling you out of the noise that was drowning your fitra. He's removing the mirrors you kept looking into just to feel like you existed. And now, He wants you to see yourself through Him, not through them. So He removes all reflection. No more feedback. No more validation. No more signs from the outside. Just silence. So you can finally listen to the echo inside your soul. The echo that was always whispering, "You are not who they think you are. You are who I created you to be." This season will feel lonely, but it's not loneliness. It's divine intimacy dressed in silence. Because when Allah wants to transform you, He doesn't surround you with cheerleaders. He surrounds you with mirrors that stop reflecting. So you stop performing. So you stop pretending. So you stop editing yourself to be understood. You won't fit into old spaces anymore. Not because you've become arrogant, but because your soul has outgrown the costumes, and you'll begin to crave quiet. You'll crave conversations with Allah more than with people. You'll crave truth more than attention. You'll crave depth more than belonging. That's how you know your soul is entering a season, not of punishment, but of preparation. Allah is not just preparing you for the blessing, He's preparing your vision. So when the blessing comes, you recognize it without needing anyone else to confirm it. So if you feel like nothing reflects you back anymore, don't panic. You're not disappearing. You're being rewritten. You're stepping into a version of yourself that can no longer be seen by average eyes. A version that doesn't need to be seen because it's known in the heavens. This is your quiet unveiling, the sacred silence before your public clarity. And once this season ends, you won't need mirrors anymore, because you'll finally see yourself through the one who never stopped reflecting you, even when the world forgot how. 4. He will send you a deep, one-sided love that burns you quietly. There are some tests that don't come in the form of pain, but in the form of love. A love that feels divine, unexplainable, almost like you knew them before you met them. You don't ask for it. You don't chase it. It just appears suddenly, softly, and it fits. It feels like it was written, like Allah placed it right in front of you for a reason. You stay up making dua for it. You protect it. You don't cross boundaries. You tell no one. You pray that it becomes halal. You beg Allah in sujood, "If this is good for me, Ya Rab, bring us together in a way that pleases you." But instead of bringing you closer, He distances you. Instead of clarity, you get confusion. Instead of love, you get silence. Instead of a path forward, you get a heart that burns, alone. And what hurts the most is, you were sincere. You didn't play games. You didn't have bad intentions. You weren't attached to the dunya. You were attached to a soul in the most halal way you knew how to be. So why would Allah break it? Why would He let your heart feel something so deep, only to let it echo in silence? The answer is heavy, but it's healing, because sometimes Allah will send you a love, not to keep, but to expose something within you. A wound, a fear, an idol you didn't know you built. A place in your heart that loved someone more than your own peace, more than your own submission. And so He lets it burn, not to punish you, but to purify you. Because you didn't fall in love with a person. You fell in love with a version of peace you believed only they could give you. You fell in love with how they made you feel. Seen, understood, chosen. You saw in them the home you always begged for, the mirror you never had, the softness this world rarely gave you. But here's what Allah is showing you through the pain. That if one human's absence can shake your soul this deeply, then your soul was leaning on them, not just loving them. And sometimes, the most sincere love is still a distraction if it begins to compete with your stillness. So Allah lets it slip through your fingers, not because you were wrong for feeling, but because He was right in protecting your heart before it made them the center of your healing. You will cry. You will ask why. You will replay every moment and search for answers you'll never find. And through that ache, you'll begin to talk to Allah more deeply than you ever did. You'll tell Him everything you couldn't say to them. You'll feel the ache only He can understand. You'll stop needing closure from a human because your heart will finally start closing around Him. And that's the real blessing. Not getting the love you prayed for, but becoming the version of yourself who can live without it. A version that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't break from silence. A version who trusts that if something is written, it will return. And if it's not, then what's coming is softer, safer, and spiritually aligned in ways you can't yet imagine. So, if you're still hurting, still carrying their name in a corner of your chest, still wondering if they think about you too, just know, Allah hasn't forgotten your love, but He loves you more than the version of you who needed someone else to feel complete. And one day, when you're healed, when you're whole, when you're not burning anymore, you'll look back and whisper, Ya Allah, I thought I loved them, but what I really needed was to find myself in you first. 5. Allah will make you wait so long that time itself becomes the test. There is a kind of test that doesn't come with noise, doesn't come with loss, doesn't even come with pain at first. It comes with waiting, and not just ordinary waiting, but the kind of waiting that slowly begins to rewrite your entire sense of time, the kind that makes the days feel blurry, the nights longer than they should be, and the months feel like years. You pray, you cry, you keep doing everything right, and yet nothing moves, nothing changes. It's like life is frozen just for you. You see others get what they didn't even ask for. Doors opened for people who barely knocked, and there you are, still stuck, still on pause, still holding on to a hope that's starting to feel more like heartbreak. At first, you believe it's temporary. You say, it's okay, Allah's timing is perfect. You keep going. You remind yourself, good things take time. But then time keeps passing, and the blessing doesn't arrive. And slowly, the test shifts. It's no longer just about waiting for the blessing. It's about what the waiting is doing to you. You begin to feel unseen, forgotten, like Allah is watching you beg and staying silent. You don't say it out loud, but you wonder if your dua got lost. You wonder if maybe it was too big of a dream. You start lowering your expectations. You stop talking about it, and the silence becomes heavier than the delay itself. But what if this test was never about the blessing at all? What if the real blessing was being rebuilt by time itself? Because here's the truth no one talks about. There are some transformations that can only happen in long seasons of stillness. Seasons where you're not getting what you want. So your soul starts to discover what it actually needs. The waiting isn't empty. It's filled with divine rewiring. Your ego slowly breaks. Your obsession with outcomes dies. Your faith moves from your tongue to your bloodstream. You stop loving Allah for what He gives, and you start loving Him for how He sustains you through what He withholds. You stop tying your peace to results, and you start tying it to surrender. Real surrender. The kind that whispers, Ya Allah, if you never give it, I'll still stay. That level of contentment can't be rushed. That kind of soul doesn't happen in fast answers. It's carved over time. And that's why Allah makes you wait so long. Not because He enjoys your struggle, but because the version of you who begged for the blessing is not the version who will keep it when it comes. You asked for something big, something beautiful, something weighty. So He's training your soul to hold it without shaking. And that kind of strength That kind of stillness can only be built when your timeline completely breaks and all that's left is trust. So if you're waiting right now, and it's been months, maybe years, and you're secretly exhausted but still holding on, I want you to know, Allah sees you. Not just your efforts, not just your du'as, but the version of you that keeps showing up, even though nothing is happening. And that version of you is not failing, it's evolving. Because when the blessing finally comes, and it will come, you won't just be grateful, you'll be ready. Ready to carry it with grace, ready to hold it without worshipping it, ready to know it was never about the thing you waited for. It was always about who you became while waiting. So stay patient. The test isn't the delay. The test is, can your soul still bloom, even when the season doesn't change? 6. He will burn every bridge that leads back to who you were. There comes a point in your journey with Allah where the life you once knew starts quietly disappearing. Not with drama, not with explosions, but with silence, unspoken disconnection, slow loss, sudden shifts that no one else notices but you. Friends you used to speak to every day stop calling. Places that once comforted you start draining you. Habits that once helped you survive feel unbearable. The way you used to dress, talk, act, pray, respond, it all starts to feel like clothing that doesn't fit anymore. And in the beginning, you try to fight it. You try to hold on. You tell yourself, I'm just overthinking. You try to go back to what once worked, but it's not working anymore. And that's when the truth starts to whisper, you're not being left behind. You're being pulled forward. You're not being forgotten. You're being freed. Because before Allah can bless you with who you're becoming, He will burn every bridge that leads back to who you used to be. Not to scare you, not to punish you, but to protect you from your own comfort zone. Because He knows something you don't, that your old life, even if it looked successful, was still secretly wounding you. That the person you kept texting out of habit was delaying your growth. That the friends you kept smiling for were watering the very version of you Allah was trying to kill. That the dream you thought was your calling was actually a distraction dressed in purpose. So what does He do? He starts removing your exits. He blocks you from returning. He lets the door you would have run back to get sealed shut. That's when the panic sets in. You feel stuck in the middle. You're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. And this is the test. Will you break, or will you be broken open? Because transformation is not a glow-up. It's a breakdown. It's messy. It's silent. It's nights where you miss your old self, even though you know they weren't fully healed. It's mourning your old circle, while still not feeling like you belong in the new one. It's wanting to return to who you were, not because you liked them, but because at least they were familiar. But Allah says no. He burns the bridge. He lets you miss the past, but never return to it. Because He's not just upgrading your surroundings. He's rewriting your identity. He's rebuilding your soul from the inside. He's detoxing you from the approval addiction you didn't know you had. He's tearing out the roots of shame that kept you smiling through pain. He's peeling away every false layer you built just to survive. And yes, it hurts. But this is the mercy hidden in the burn. You will never again walk back into places that once made you shrink. You will never again lower your voice just to be liked. You will never again call pain love because that's all you knew. You'll stop entertaining people who don't respect your peace. You'll stop chasing dreams that don't match your values. You'll stop fighting to stay where your soul no longer breathes. Because the burn isn't destroying you. It's disarming you. It's taking away every weapon you used to hurt yourself, every attachment you used to delay your healing, every escape route you would have taken the moment growth got uncomfortable. Allah knows you, and He knows how easy it would have been for you to return to a lesser version of yourself if He didn't set the past on fire. So He does. He lets the bridges burn quietly. No big goodbye, no last chance, just a slow, painful exit from everything that once defined you. And then He leaves you standing alone, not because He abandoned you, but because He's about to walk you into the chapter you were always meant to write. The one that doesn't come with pretending, the one that doesn't require performance, the one where your soul finally breathes without shrinking, without masks, without apology. And when you look back one day, you'll whisper, "Ya Allah, if you didn't take that from me, I would have never stepped into who I am now." So if you're watching your old life fall apart, if the bridges are burning and you feel lost in the smoke, just know you're not being punished, you're being protected. You're not being left behind, you're being reborn. And very soon, you'll realize that what you thought was destruction was really the first day of your freedom. 7. He will break what you used to call your purpose. You thought you knew your purpose. Maybe it was a dream you built over years. Maybe it was a career, a mission, a platform, a plan. Maybe it was a relationship that made you feel chosen. Whatever it was, you gave it your time, your soul, your prayers. You told yourself, "This is why I was created." And then, without warning, Allah shattered it. It didn't work. The door closed. The project failed. The people left. The path dried up right under your feet. You tried to revive it. You tried to hold on. You convinced yourself, maybe I just need more sabr. Maybe this is a test of persistence. But deep inside, you knew something had shifted. The same passion that once gave you life now felt like it was slowly draining you. And that's when the heartbreak begins. Because the loss of purpose doesn't just feel like failure. It feels like losing yourself. You question everything. You look back at the hours you poured in, the dreams you sacrificed for, the people you inspired. You ask, did I lie to myself? Was all of that just a distraction? And here's the painful truth. Sometimes it was. Not because you were wrong to try, not because it wasn't good, but because it wasn't pure anymore. What started as sincerity slowly became performance. What began as service slowly became survival. What was once for Allah became for applause, for identity, for validation. You didn't notice it happen. You were too busy giving, building, proving, but Allah did. And out of love, not punishment, He broke it. Because anything that becomes part of your identity can become an idol, even a purpose, even something noble. When you start thinking, if I'm not this, then who am I? That's when Allah steps in and whispers, you're mine, and that's enough. So He breaks it. He removes the mission. He collapses the stage. He sends silence where there used to be support, not to shame you, but to save you from attaching your worth to outcomes, to save you from measuring your faith by numbers, to save you from building a throne where you were meant to bow. Because true purpose doesn't need a title. It doesn't need visibility. It doesn't even need to be understood. Sometimes your real purpose is the healing you do behind closed doors, the patience you carry in silence, the sujood that no one sees, the growth you go through when the world isn't clapping. That's the kind of purpose that can't be taken, because it doesn't live in a role, It lives in your obedience. So if Allah broke what you thought was your calling, if He removed what once gave you identity, if He left you in a space where you don't know what to do anymore, don't rush to rebuild. Don't scramble to find the next big mission. Don't chase clarity just to avoid sitting in the unknown. Sometimes, the most sacred form of purpose is not knowing and still staying faithful. Because what if your purpose in this season is not to lead, but to listen, not to be seen, but to be sincere, not to succeed, but to be softened? You don't need to be productive for Allah to value you. You don't need to be impressive for your life to have meaning. The dunya will always push you to become someone, but Allah is calling you to return to someone, the version of you that existed before the noise, before the labels, before the pressure to matter. And when He finally gives you your next assignment, it will not come with confusion. It will come with stillness. It will not feel like performance. It will feel like peace. You won't chase it. You won't panic. You won't build it out of fear, because it won't be built on needing to prove anything to anyone. It will be built on truth. And this time, it won't need an audience, because you'll know that the only one who needs to see it already does. So if you're in the space between purposes, the wilderness after collapse, just breathe. You're not lost. You're being redirected. And your real purpose, it's not something you're becoming. It's something you're remembering. 8. Allah will let you burn out just to teach you what light is. There comes a point in every soul's journey where the fire you once carried begins to fade. At first, you don't notice it. You keep going. You keep praying. You keep pushing through the tiredness. You keep showing up for others, for duties, for faith. You tell yourself, I'm just in a phase. I'll feel better soon. But days become weeks. Weeks become months. And suddenly you feel like something inside you has dimmed. You start missing Fajr more than you used to. Your du'as become shorter. You stop crying in sujood, not because you don't care, but because you're too numb to feel anything anymore. And then it hits you. You're burnt out. Not just physically, not just emotionally, but spiritually. You gave your energy to everyone. You poured into things that didn't pour back. You carried burdens you never shared. You prayed for people who never even said thank you. You kept being strong until strength became your prison. And now, there's nothing left inside. No fire, no drive, just silence. But here's the divine secret. Sometimes Allah will let you burn out, not to destroy you, but to show you what your light was built on. Because sometimes the light you thought was from Him was actually from your own striving, your own ego, your own fear of being irrelevant, your own need to prove that you matter. You confused movement with purpose. You confused performance with piety. You confused being needed with being whole. So Allah, in His mercy, lets it all collapse. He lets the fuel run out. He lets your heart go quiet. He lets your soul feel like it's walking through fog. Not because He's left you, but because He's waiting for you at the very bottom of your burnout. He wants you to ask the question you've been avoiding. Ya Allah, if I'm not helping others, if I'm not productive, if I'm not impressive, do I still matter to you? And that's where the light returns. Not the light you had before, but a softer, steadier, sacred light. A light that no longer comes from being everything to everyone, but from being nothing but His. Because the truth is, you were never meant to carry it all. You were never created to be endlessly strong. You were never designed to be everyone's answer. You were not made to burn for others. while slowly dying inside yourself. So Allah allows the burnout to humble you, to stop you, to sit you down and say, "Come back," not as the healer, not as the helper, not as the inspiration, just as my servant who needs me. And in that moment of collapse, you stop pretending, you stop pushing, you stop trying to fix yourself with more effort. You finally exhale, and for the first time in a long time, you just exist. No titles, no pressure, no performance, just a soul sitting in front of its Lord, empty but finally real. And that's when you begin to understand. Your light was never meant to be self-created. It was always meant to be received. You were not the fire. You were the lantern. And even the most beautiful lantern can't shine unless it's filled from above. So now you sit in the dark, but not as a punishment, as a purification. Allah is not asking you to light yourself back up. He's asking you to be still enough to receive His light. This time without the ego, without the noise, without the need to impress. And when His nur enters your heart again, you won't have to fight to keep it burning. Because now your light won't be based on how good you feel. It won't disappear in hard seasons. It won't flicker when others stop applauding. It will come from something deeper, something unshakable, something eternal. It will come from knowing, even in your burnout, even in your lowest silence, Allah never turned away. So if you're exhausted right now, not from sin, but from being sincere for too long without rest, this message is yours. You don't have to get up yet. You don't have to bounce back. You don't have to feel better tomorrow. You just have to be here, as you are, burnt out, but beloved. And that is more than enough. Because sometimes Allah won't relight your fire. He'll become it, and you'll never burn the same way again. You thought you were being delayed, but you were being designed. You thought the tests were holding you back, but they were holding you together. Allah wasn't punishing you. He was protecting what would have shattered if He gave you the blessing too early. Because the version of you who made the dua wasn't ready to carry the weight of what was coming. But the version of you who's still standing, after the breaking, the waiting, the silence, the loss, that version is ready. So if it still hurts, if the doors are still closed, if you still don't understand why it had to happen this way, just remember this: the delay is not rejection. It's divine precision. And when the blessing finally arrives, you won't thank Allah for the gift. You'll thank Him for the fire that made your hands strong enough to hold it. Because this time, you won't drop it. You won't lose it. You'll carry it with grace, with peace, and with full trust. Because you didn't just receive a blessing, you became someone who could protect it,